Okay, Mr. Zhou, Dr. Chang, Professor Lau, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, I would like to welcome you warmly to the lecture by Mr. Cho Hwan-bok, Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Hong Kong and Macau. 영사님의 CUHK 방문을 진심으로 환영합니다. I am Seo Lee, an exchange student here at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, coming from Yonsei University, Korea. I am so proud of myself to be the MC today. Today's lecture by Mr. Cho Hwan-bok is one of the lecture series by famous diplomats, including those from mainland China, Germany, France, US, UK, and Japan. Okay, now before the lecture begins, may I invite Professor Lawrence Lau, Vice Chancellor of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to give his welcoming remarks. Professor Lau, please.
Consul General, Consul Chairman, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all, and welcome once again to the Chinese University of Hong Kong. It is my great honor and privilege to have with us today Mr. Cho Hwan-bok, the Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Hong Kong and Macau, as our distinguished speaker. This is the 8th in our series of lectures by Consuls Generals in Hong Kong, and Mr. Cho will speak to us this afternoon on a subject of vital interest. For a permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia, beyond the nuclear challenge and the Cold War. Mr. Cho graduated from Seoul National University, the leading university in Korea, and began his diplomatic career in 1975 when he joined the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His overseas postings since 1979 have taken him to Switzerland, Bolivia, Mexico, France, Kenya, Canada, and China, where he gained extensive experience in multinational diplomacy. And before assuming the post of Consul General in Hong Kong in September 2004, he was minister at the Korean Embassy in Beijing for 3 years. Other than his many postings to Korean embassies abroad, Mr. Cho has also held key positions in different departments of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, namely the Director of the Economic Organizations Division from 1988 to 1990, as Director General of the International Economic Affairs Bureau from 1995 to 1996, and Executive Director of the Korea International Cooperation Agency in 2000. In the year 2000, he was appointed Director General of the International Economic Affairs Bureau under the restructured Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Over the years, he has represented the Republic of Korea in many important international negotiations and is well-versed in the trends of South Korea's foreign policy, particularly in the areas of trade, development, and environmental issues. On a more personal note, not all of us may be aware that Hong Kong is in fact the first city that Mr. Cho visited when he left Korea for the first time, understand, in 1976, on his way to Indonesia to attend an international conference. After some 30 years, he's now back in this city to take over the helm of the Korean Consulate General. He will have ample opportunity to enjoy the local delicacies, Hong Kong delicacies of wonton, I understand, and pineapple buns, which he loves so much. Mr. Cho is going to enlighten us today on the prospects for peace in the Northeast Asian region, North Korea's first nuclear test last month, and the deadlock in the Six Nation talks have generated grave concern among the international community. Could this crisis be seen as the catalyst for a permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia as a whole? I'm sure you can't wait to share Mr. Cho's insights on this very topical subject. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Consul General Cho.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Lau. Thank you for your kind introduction. And it's my great honor to have this opportunity to talk about the situation on the Korean Peninsula and the surrounding the Northeast Asian region. If there is the one word that can properly reflect the aspirations of the Korean people, is peace. Because the peace in the Korean Peninsula was obtained at the expenses of 4 million people's death during the Korean War. After the Korean War, still the Korea is divided into parts, and the Cold War confrontation still remain unchanging. In that sense, historical origin of the North Korean nuclear issue can be traced back all the way to the aftermath of the World War II and also Cold War. In that sense, the resolving the North Korean nuclear issue is a part of the broad endeavor to disintegrate the residual, the Cold War structures in the Korean Peninsula. During the Cold War period, the regional security was assured by the military deterrence and containment. And at the time, the South Korea and U.S. alliance, they contribute a lot in preventing the recurrences of the Korean War. Unlike the post-Cold War European countries, there is no solid permanent peace in the Korean Peninsula. So that's why we believe that time has come to establish a lasting and peaceful region both on the Korean Peninsula and the Northeast Asian region. For its purposes, there are two main tasks in building the permanent peace. One is in promoting inter-Korean relations. Another one is in resolution of the North Korean nuclear standoff, which is an imminent and threatening issues. In addressing these two issues, then one should implement in the timely and harmonious way, because these two, apparently two different issues, are something like the two wheels in one bicycle. This is a Korean map, and you can see, this is, a blue line is a so-called demarcation line. And then the 2 kilometers from the north, 2 kilometers to the south is called the demilitarized zone. This is a nobody's land, a lot of landmines and so on. During the Cold War period, between the South and North Korea, there is no contact, no communication, and no the crossover. Even though these days we have a limited contact with the North Korea, but still for ordinary people, that we cannot have a direct contact, we cannot go to North Korea. This is a short comparison between South and North Korea, and all this data is on the basis of 2005. And the population-wise, that the South Korea is a little bit more than 2 times bigger than North Korea, while that the land area, North Korea is about 20% larger than South Korea. But when you see the economy, the GDP size, South Korea is almost 40 times bigger than North Korea. And the GDP per head, South Korea is 18 times higher than North Korea. But the biggest difference in terms of economic strength comes in the form of the trade volume. South Korean, the external trade amount is more than 150 times bigger than North Korea. So in that sense, economy-wise, the competition is over. How can you compete with a country whose economic size is 2.5%, whose external trade volume is less than 1% of South Korea? That's one of the reasons behind implementing the engagement policy. But when you see the conventional forces, then the figures are somewhat different. When you consider total numbers of military personnel, North Korea maintains still 1.1 million soldiers, while South Korea a little bit less than 700,000 people. So in that sense, the North Korea is superior in about 1.6 times and bigger than the total numbers of the South Korean military. But when you see the defense spending, North Korea spent $5 billion last year, and South Korea spent $21 billion. So in that sense, South Korea has spent 4 times bigger. But when you consider economic size, North Korea, such a poor country, has spent 25% of their GDP for military purposes, while South Korea with 4 times bigger, defense amount than the proportion to our economic size is only 2.5 times. So you can easily guess that North Korea, with such a difficult economic, the situation, then that's why, they are pushing, so-called Army First policy. The first task, namely the inter-Korean relations. As you see that the South Korean government since 1998, they continues to implement a so-called engagement policy. In the previous government is called something like a sunshine policy, and in this present government is called the peace and the co-prosperity policy, but the context is the same. The very core of this engagement policy is to bring change through increased interactions. There are 2 aspects. One is inter-Korean reconciliation, and another one is confidence-building measures and humanitarian assistance. Among the several measures of inter-Korean reconciliation, economic cooperation, inter-Korean economic cooperation plays a key role because the inter-Korean economic cooperation, beyond economic implication, and politically, it can enhance the mutual trust and militarily reduce the tensions. And also, it can pave the way for eventual economic community. And more importantly, we can induce North Korea come to the path of reform and openness. At the same time, confidence-building measures and humanitarian assistance are the priority areas for South Korean government in the process of inter-Korean reconciliation. In this regard, I have brought one quotation from Mr. Willy Brandt, who later has become the Chancellor of the West Germany. In the early 1960s, he mentioned, in implementing the so-called Ostpolitik or East politics, blocking exchanges would result in bolstering the position of East German regime and deepening the division instead of bringing about the change of regime. That is a philosophy, I assume, which has paved the way for the eventual German unification. And the engagement policy in that sense had the same context. Let me go more into detail about the project that we have been implementing. I have brought some figures. You might know that in recent years there was a remarkable development in economic cooperation between 2 parts of Korea in the private sector, and also expanded dialogue at the governmental level. The number of the South Korean people traveled to and from North Korea amounted to 87,000. This 87,000, this number is bigger than the total accumulated number of the visitors from after the Korean War until all the way to 2004. So the 1 year, last year's, that the numbers of the visitors is exceeding, total numbers before that year. At the same time, there is one symbolic inter-Korean economic project which is called Mountain Diamond. In Korea, we say Kumgangsan, Kumgang Mountain. This is the limited area whereby North Korea has allowed South Korean tourists to visit these very scenic mountains. During the last 7 years operation, 1.1 million South Koreans has visited this very scenic spot. At the same time, last year, annual trade volume between South and North Korea amounted to $1 billion, which is roughly 25% of total North Korea's external trade. So now South Korea is the number 2 trading partner for North Korea only after China. China has about maybe $1.5 billion, so around 37 or 38% of North Korean external trade. And also South Korea has continued to provide economic aid to North Korea in the form of mainly fertilizers and food, rice. At the same time, the Korean government has also endeavored to enhance the mutual trust by way of the holding 165 different kinds of meetings, including the 17 rounds of ministerial talk since the year 2000 up to 2005. These are 2 charts which showed sharp increase in the year 2005, the in the case of exchange of visit and inter-Korean trade. And this kind of sharp increase was largely due to the implementation of the so-called Kaesong Industrial Complex project, which I'm going to give you the explanation later. So you can see clearly last year there was a momentum, in strengthening the inter-Korean relations. The Korea also continues to provide fertilizers to North Korea on average 300,000 to 350,000 tons, and also around 500,000 tons of food aid, particularly rice, we are provided. For your reference, fertilizer is on free of charge, is on grant aid. Find that the food aid is in the form of the loan. So North Korea is supposed to pay back to South Korea in the form of the cash or the in-kind 10 years after the delivery. This is on the central part, somewhat expanded, the pictures. And here I'd like to mention particularly two areas. One is on Gyeongbang, located Gyeongbang, the mountain. And in the past, before we have inter-Korean linkage by road, in order to go to this mountain Gyeongbang, then we have to use the boat by sea. Then in order to go there, these very short distances, the ship should go all the way to the high sea, because we cannot go directly into the territorial waters of North Korea. So first we go all the way to high sea, and then we enter into the North Korean territorial waters. But now, because of the linkage, then we can reach this mountain Gyeongbang in less than 1 hour. Another important area I'd like to mention, this is Seoul, this is in Kaesong. Kaesong is located about 60 miles north of Seoul, and about 5 kilometers from the DMZ. And Kaesong is one of the biggest cities in North Korea, maybe second or third largest city. And then during the Korean War in the 1950s, this city was located strategically in the invasion route. So this is an area where the fierce battle between South and North Korean armies, they fought together. Now, with the implementation of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, this fierce battleground has become the peace zone. This is quite symbolic. And the very logic of the Kaesong Industrial Complex is quite simple. It's something like Shenzhen, the special economic zone in the 1980s. And we provide, South Korea provide the capital, financial resources and technology, and North Korea provide land and cheap the labor forces and land. And this project is quite symbolic because even though this at the moment is on a pilot phase, and this is on rather experimental phases, but this symbolizes something, economic interdependence, between South and North Korea. And at this initial stage, there are 15 South Korean companies operating in North Korea, in the Kaesong, with employing the 6,000 North Korean workers and working with 500 South Korean workers. They produce, certain items like leather products and textiles and watches. For your reference, this watch is made from the Kaesong industrial complexes, and this is very good. It was a gift, from the company chairman. And for the Kaesong Industrial Complex project, every day there are 600 commuters and 300 vehicles visiting this Kaesong. So this Kaesong project is projected to set up by the end of next year 300 businesses to employ the 70,000 North Korean workers. But because of the North Korean missile they are launching, and because of North Korean nuclear test, we are concerned that this project that might not be implemented as was planned. I would like to emphasize once again, this is a very symbolic and important project, the real aim of creating an eventual inter-Korean economic community. These are some figures, and you can see, and we have implemented only 2 years, of this Kaesong project, and in case everything they go smoothly as planned, then there is an important momentum in the year 2006, in the year 2007, and then we are going to make a very sharp curve in the year 2008, 2009, because we have a development plan stage by stage. First is in the pilot phase, to be followed by the first phase of development and second phase of development. But as I told you again, that because of the unexpected North Korean nuclear issue, this project will not make such an expected the way. This is some video clip. For the public information of the Kaesong Industrial Complex. From the joint security area to joint prosperity area. Here is Kaesong Industrial Complex. And those are the people who are real North Korean workers. A peace for the economy and economy for the peace. The thinking between South and North Korea are changing. The distance between South and Korea is coming closer. Korea means another Korea. We believe in the power of the double Korea, the Ministry of Unification. And this is a video clip and to be aired in the Korean TV. So it has two purposes. One, to enhance the understanding about the Kaesong Industrial Complex. And secondly, to mobilize participation of the Korean small and medium-sized companies. Inter-Korean railway and highways, they link two parts of Korea by creating a peace corridors through the demilitarized zone, one on the east and the other on the west. And it has a very important military implication because in order to make these corridors, then South and North Korea has successfully removed substantial amount of the barbed wires and landmines. And the railways are physically linked, but in order to run to make an operation, then we have to make a test run. And but because of North Korean the political situation, North Korea does not give us a green light to make a test run, so we are waiting to get approval from the North Korea. So apart from this inter-Korean the railway linkage, it has a much more broad implication because once we can connect South and North Korea the railways, then it can be linked further either Trans-China Railway or Trans-Siberian Railway, so we can reach all the way to the Europe. So maybe sometime later, then we can assume that some containers, they're leaving from the Busan port will be delivered all the way to the Amsterdam. And we have a calculation that economically is much less costly and is much more time saving. So inter-Korean, the railway linkage not only has our internal the importances, but beyond that, there is a very important economic implication linking South Korea all the way to Europe. Another one is on the reunion of the aging separated families. These are the people who suffered most acutely, from the agonies of the 5 decades of separation. So far, during the last 6 years, 13,000 separated family members in South Korea met their families and relatives in North Korea. And I have, there's a video clip to show the emotional encountering scene. And I'm sure I don't have audio this one. Look, they are at the meeting for the first time in 60 years. Look at their faces. He must be more than 80 years old. He left North Korea, while he was before, 20 years old. Now he's, such an old man. He showed his pictures. After 3 days, normally they, separate once again because they can't live together. So this is a, parting scene. This is another emotional and powerful reason behind the engagement policy. For the reference, I have I'd like to quote the one article from the Washington Post. It was dated October 11, 2006, and the article title was "North-South Relations Suffer a Sudden Chill as Sunshine Policy Dims, so does hope for families." It says it refers to a case of Mr. Lee Won-sun, who is gaunt 97-year-old watchmakers. The article says that though about 13,000 families have briefly come together under the watchful eyes of North Korean gods, Lee's turn to glimpse the sons and daughters he last saw sleeping in their beds nearly 60 years ago had yet to come up. Aging and ailing, he said with trembling voices, I have lost hope of ever seeing my family again. All I wanted was a chance to look my children in the eyes and tell them how sorry I am, sorry that I left them too early and that they got struck in North Korea. Not a single day goes by without my thinking of the conditions they grew up in North Korea. I just wish I could have given them a deep bow of apology before I go. Now, we have tens of thousands separated families. And when they are separated, 60 years old, they might have a kid. Now he's 70 years old. When they were separated with their family, with their mother and father, most probably they might have passed away. So this is a very, the emotional reason that no country in the world have the right, to separate them anymore. The project is on the support for the North Korean refugees. You might have seen many times in the newspaper article that the North Korean people, they cross the border for several reasons, and then they try to enter into the diplomatic compounds, the foreign embassy in Beijing, and then seeking the political asylum to be sent back to South Korea. Our South Korean government position is that whenever there is such a North Korean, we are going to receive each and every one of them. So during up to last year, we have received so far 7,500 North Koreans. And after we receive them, then we operate a resettlement program. We certainly, give the financial resources. We certainly let them have an education, so that they could be more comfortably adopt their new life in Korea. And also we provide the shelters. So these are some of the most representative, the project promoting the inter-Korean relations. I can definitely say that unless there was a North Korean nuclear test, then the peace index in the past has continued to increase in the Korean Peninsula. So our investment in North Korea is not a simple investment. It's not a giveaway. It's not a favor. It's an investment for the future. It's an investment to promote the peace on the Korean Peninsula. But because of North Korean nuclear test, it has overshadowed the important and substantial progress that we have made during the past several years. But we cannot certainly discount and that progress that we have made so far. We cannot simply forget it. So in order to make good progress in inter-Korean relations, there is one very, very important condition. That's the North Korean nuclear issue. Unless we properly address and resolve this North Korean nuclear issue, we know that we cannot make the important progress again in the inter-Korean relations, because as I told you before, these two tasks are something like the two wheels in one bicycle. You can travel with one bicycle, with one wheel. So let me talk about North Korean nuclear cases. A certain North Korean nuclear issue, nuclear is under serious challenge and also serious threat to national, regional, and also global security. In addressing this North Korean nuclear issue, South Korean government has three basic principles. First, we are not going to tolerate in any way that North Korea possess nuclear weapons. And second, we have to address and resolve North Korean nuclear issue peacefully, through the dialogue and negotiation. And third, as a direct party, South Korea should be engaged in an active and proactive way. Those are the three principles. And as you say, that the very forum of addressing this issue is on six-party talks involving South and North Korea, United States, China, Japan, and Russia. So far, since the August 2003, 5 rounds of talks and 2 sessions of working group meetings took place. And then the important breakthrough was made about a year ago in September last year in the form of the joint statement. And this is a very, very important statement. Then the content is that first of all, verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and North Korea will abandon all nuclear weapons and existing nuclear program. These two parts are the commitment of the North Korea. And then the other parties, the promises, normalization of relations between U.S. and North Korea, and between Japan and North Korea. And also the other parties promise to promote economic cooperation in the form of energy, trade, and investment. And then something important is that beyond these kinds of give and take, there is a vision, which says that the parties will negotiate a permanent peace regime on the Korean Peninsula beyond nuclear issues. And also they promise to explore ways and means for promoting security cooperation in Northeast Asia. Let me talk about the significance of this joint statement. This is the first joint document ever adopted in the six-party talks. And then by adopting this joint statement, actually six-party talks has entered into a new phase of substantive resolution. And apart from that, this joint statement symbolized the commitment of strengthening the international non-proliferation against the WMD and promote the regional security cooperation, and also serves as an important basis for accelerating inter-Korean exchange and economic cooperation. So all in all, what the joint statement says that North Korea will abandon nuclear weapons in a complete, irreversible, in way. But at the same time, the other parties will provide the economic aid and they guarantee a regime survival. I mean, their security. But as you see, these six-party talks, after the September last year, they are now on a long and extended break. During the last 13 or 14 months, we didn't make any progresses because of a series of development. And first, immediately after the six parties agreed on the joint statement, then the North Korea says that they should have the light water nuclear reactor as a prerequisite before they do anything on North Korean nuclear weapons programs. Even the joint statement said that the other parties will discuss the provision of the light water nuclear reactor at an appropriate time. Appropriate time means sometime later, but North Korea insists as a prerequisite. So this is not something new because North Korea is quite good. They agree something, and then immediately after that, they something some other condition. But certainly it shows that the future negotiation will be tough. But the real twist, was not that. The real twist happened when the U.S. government has made, financial measures against the one bank in Macau, which is called Banco Delta Asia. And in September 2005, that's around the same time that the six party has agreed to, adopt the, joint statement. And this Banco Delta Asia was suspected of helping North Korea's illicit activities through the money laundering. And certainly this bank has denied any wrongdoings, but at later stages they have frozen North Korean bank accounts. And North Korea was not happy, and North Korea thought they were offended. And but unlike the expectation of North Korea, according to the international media, about 24 of foreign banks and followed the suit of the American measures, and in the form of stopping the business relations with the Banco Delta Asia or the freezing the North Korean bank accounts. So these kinds of confrontation persisted, and then out of a desperate gesture, North Korea suddenly launched 7 missiles in July 5, 2006. And this kind of provocation has only invited the UN Security Council resolution 10 days after. And this North Korean missile launching has dampened the perspective of resuming the six-party talks and also plunged inter-Korean relations to a new law. But something important was that at the time that China supported these resolutions. Even though the resolution content was not as strong as was previously discussed. But something really, the undesirable development was made when North Korea, despite international appeal not to do, they made a nuclear test on October 9th. That was a really twist. They're making the early resumption of against the possibility of resuming the six-party talks. Again, it has caused the condemnation of the whole international community. So in case of China, China's reaction was very strong. The Chinese foreign ministry has made a statement. Shengming is rather than Danhua. Shengming is a much stronger form of the external statement. And then the foreign ministry's spokesperson, used a term in Putonghua is a hanran. That's a kind of brazen. It's a very strong word. And then we know that the Chinese government and Chinese foreign ministry has upon the very extensive discussion inside. They have that the deliberate has chosen this very strong word. And what I understand is that in the past, the Chinese foreign minister has used only once before in the early 1970s in some other international event. So this is the second time that the Chinese government, in such an explicit form, has condemned the missile launch on the part of North Korea. As was expected, this security resolution was promptly adopted, but this time 5 days after a nuclear test. In the previous case, it took 10 days, but this time it took only 5 days. This is a very, very speedy conclusion of adopting the resolution. So the resolution says that North Korea should abandon nuclear weapons and nuclear programs. And then the international community banned North Korea from exporting and importing any material for the WMD. And also call on all countries, all member states to inspect cargo to and from North Korea to prevent illicit trafficking of the WMD. And also order governments to freeze all asset financial resources and also ban the travel of anyone involved in nuclear-related other WMD ballistic missile program. And again, it called on North Korea to return to six-party talks. After the launching and after adopting the resolution, then on the last day of October, there was an informal tripartite talks in Beijing among China and North Korea and United States, and surprisingly, and North Korea has agreed finally to return to six-party talks. And we have an expectation that the next meeting might take place sometime in early or mid-December. Next month is. And at the same, but something surprising is that even though North Korea has clearly mentioned over and again, they are not going to return to six-party talk unless the U.S. government lift, the financial sanction measures. But apparently, that precondition was not agreed by the United States. But the U.S. certainly has confirmed their intention to engage bilateral talks with U.S. under the framework of six-party talks, and also promise, to set up a working group, to deal with these financial issues, in particular, Banco Delta Asia. This joint statement is a framework, for engagement by all parties in the region to address, nuclear issues. But more importantly, paragraph 4 says, something beyond North Korean nuclear issue. As I mentioned, they are supposed to negotiate a permanent peace regime on the Korean Peninsula at an appropriate separate forum other than the six-party talks. And also the six parties agreed to explore ways and means for promoting security cooperation in Northeast Asia. So this is a kind of vision statement for a permanent peace regime in the Korean Peninsula and also in the Northeast Asian region. So we believe that time has come to draw a concrete roadmap for these broad ideas. But we are concerned that these goals, these ambitious goals, are at the risk of not being implemented because of the state of confrontation, because of the lack of progress in the six-party talks. For North Korea, a Banco Delta Asia case is a kind of wake-up call to realize that whether they realize or not, how integrate their economies in the international financial system. And also cascading effects was much bigger, much larger than Pyongyang expected, and also maybe Washington expected. So because of a nuclear test, North Korea is totally isolated in the international community. And at the same time, there is a global consensus on sanctions against North Korea. So we believe that North Korea should have a view from a more broad context about all these issues, rather than to make a reaction on a case-by-case, which they normally prefer. So when we have next round of six-party talks, then we believe the North Korea should ascertain what is their true intention regarding denuclearization, whether really they wish to possess and develop and use the nuclear bombs, or they have a good intention to make a good conclusion through the diplomatic negotiation. All in all, North Korea should make a timely and strategic decision to get out of the current predicament. For other countries, this seemingly difficult situation is an unexpected yet a timely opportunity to look beyond North Korean nuclear issue, and also to establish a new regional order of peace and stability. When you got North Korean nuclear issue, I think that international community, in particular the 5 countries in the six-party talks, should make a collective effort to show to North Korea so there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And in case North Korea does not seize this opportunity, then opportunity cost will be extremely high. Let me talk about the European cases. The post-Cold War Europe has succeeded in transforming Cold War structures to a new order of the peace. In doing so, I think the wisdom and insight of visionary U.S. and the European statesmen must have played a crucial and critical role. In the late 1980s, in the early 1990s, I think, and those statesmen have seized the opportunity in the very tumultuous and chaotic situations. In doing so, I think the multilateralism in the form of NATO, EU, and CSCE. CSCE is a Conference of Security and Cooperation in Europe, is a dialogue forum. There was a very useful mechanism in turning this vision into a workable, coherent framework. As you see, NATO has solidified during the Cold War period transatlantic multilateral security cooperation. While EU as an economic entity has succeeded in dismantling the national borders and also reducing the economic barriers among the capitalist European countries. On the other hand, CSCE provide a very valuable forum of discussion, of dialogue between the capitalist European countries and the communist European countries. But on the other hand, our region, our northeastern region, we do not have such a tradition of multilateralism. We do not have multilateral security cooperation. And unlike Europe, we do not have a common features in terms of political and economic systems, or religion, or cultures, or history. So these kinds of, the level of multilateralism that made the regional countries reluctant to create a multilateral security mechanism, and instead they resort traditionally to bilateral alliances. In this sense, six-party talks so far is the only multilateral security process including North Korea and the regional power in our region. Again, CSCE has provided a very, very important venue of dialogue among 2 different groups of European countries to talk about the various issues of mutual concern. So in that sense, in case six-party talks goes well, then maybe one day, the historians might characterize six-party talks is some kind of Asian version of the embryonic stage of CSCE. At the same time, the talks will serve as a valuable foundation for establishing permanent multilateral security cooperation mechanism. Let me talk a little bit more about the multilateralism with regard to CSCE and United Nations. Korea has joined the CSCE, which later became the OSCE. Korea joined the CSCE as an Asian partner for cooperation during the last 12 years, and we try to learn the lessons and to recreate the OSCE experiences on the Korean Peninsula. In addition to these lessons from the CSCE, OSCE, the Korea has a unique and very special relations with the United Nations. The Korea was founded in 1945 at the same time with the United Nations, and the first Korean government was inaugurated in 1948 under the auspices of the United Nations. And again, the important momentum has come when there was a Korean War from 1950 to 1953. It wasn't the first test case for the newly born the global body, whether they can live up to the international expectations of the implementing the collective, the security by mobilizing the peace-loving countries. And they did their job very well. And again, the post-war reconstruction and rapid economic development in Korea has sustained and inspired the Korean people in our struggle to achieve a democratization during the 1970s, 1980s, during the dictatorships and authoritarian government. That's why we believe a stronger and more effective United Nations is interest of all countries. That's why that the South Korean government has presented our candidature this year to the Secretary General of the United Nations, because we owe a lot from the United Nations. So we believe time has come for us to pay back. And with the strong support of the international community, our Foreign Minister, Mr. Ban, was elected as a Secretary General of the United Nations, to which South Korean people feel enormous pride and honor. This leads me to my concluding part. It is often said that the 21st century is the Pacific century, but there is a precondition that unless there is the permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula, it might be difficult to achieve, to fulfill this dream. There were many pessimists, in the past about the future of Korea. But those pessimists on Korea were proven wrong in each and every times. For example, after the Korean War, Korea totally devastated, and those many people thought then the Korea has no way to make economic recovery. Korea was one of the hopeless countries according to the World Bank, but later it was proven that they are wrong. And when in the 1960s, 70s, when the South Korea under the military government, and those people predicted that it's going to take a long, long time for Korea to achieve a mature democracy. Again, and they were proven wrong. In the 1997, when there was economic crisis, Korean economy has collapsed. And those people predicted it's going to take a long, long time for South Korean economy to recover, but it took less than 3 years to fully recover from the economic crisis, so they were proven wrong. When this year we presented our candidature to the United Nations, and those many people predicted that how come the candidature from the divided country still confronting each other in a country from the conflict and can become a Secretary General. But again, it was proven they were wrong. So we admit that the situation at present is difficult. It's very difficult, but it's not as bleak as it appears. As I told you before, simply because of nuclear test, we cannot simply ignore all the progress, even though it was a tentative, but the meaningful progress that we have made in the inter-Korean relations. like the summit talks in the year 2000, or Kaesong Industrial Complex project and things like that. That wasn't substantial progress when you consider 50 years of confrontation. So I would like to emphasize that the importance of six-party talks, because resumption of the talks and implementation of the joint statement will not only they bring about our region closer to peaceful resolution of the North Korean nuclear issue, but more important, in the process of consultation, negotiation, implementation, we can develop a deeper sense of mutual trust to create multilateral cooperation for peace and security. In order to establish a permanent peace beyond Cold War remnants and North Korean nuclear challenges, the precondition is a strategic vision of the willingness of regional members, in particular regional leaders, to work together through a multilateral framework. We are confident in case that the regional leaders can agree upon the framework of permanent peace in the Korean Peninsula, North Korea will be able to follow the suit. At the same time, we know that we have a long and winding road ahead. But the only viable option, or maybe the effective means, a vehicle that can carry us all the way to that objective, the first step is a six-party talk. That's why South Korea is working very hard to make six-party talk a success. Okay, this is the end of the presentations, and I thank you for the patience, to listening my long presentations, and I'm very happy to receive any questions if you have. I'm very happy to attend. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much again. To show our appreciation, may I invite Dr. Edgar Chang, the University Council Chairman, to present a souvenir to Mr. Zhou. Dr. Chang, please. It is a portrait of the beautiful campus of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. We certainly hope that Mr. Zhou will remember us and come to visit us again in the future.